Hi everyone, today we will be talking about my favorite books. I am of course so excited to film this video because I'm literally going to be talking about my favorite books ever. So these are going to be my 6-star God tier books, my favorite books of all time. I will right now give a disclaimer. I will be talking about series as one book. I will tell you my favorite from the series, but I will talk about the series as a whole because if I were to have to do series like each book apart, like that would be a disaster. So the series are going to be a one book in terms of like my favorite books, but let's get into it. Let's show you my favorite books. First, I have 3 honorable mentions. One is Forever and Always Harry Potter. It's just one of my favorite series of all time. I don't need to talk about Harry Potter. I don't need to explain Harry Potter to you. I don't need to be supporting that author. I did want to say it. That is also one of my favorite series ever, but I'm not going to be talking about it in detail in this video. And then here I have the 2 other honorable mentions, and the reason that they are honorable mentions and not my favorite book, 6-star God tier, is because these 2, I don't think are 6-star God tier, but they are some of my favorite books I've ever read, and I did want to mention them. So the first one is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab, which is one of my favorite books ever, but I haven't read it in so long, and 2, also when I read it, it was so long ago, like it was right at the start of my reading journey, so I want to reread it before I call it a 6-star God tier book. Like, I can't do that yet. But I have already read this 2 times, I think. I want to reread it again, and I do love this book. I know it's at least a 5-star. I just need to reread it to determine if it's like a 6-star God tier book. This book you follow Addie LaRue. She makes a deal with something you're not supposed to make a deal with. But the catch to this deal is that like she will live forever now. She's immortal. But no one will remember her. So you would have a conversation with her, and the moment you turn your face away and you see her again, you have forgotten her. So you don't know her anymore. You don't remember her. One day, she goes into a bookstore, she grabs a book, and she steals it. Because normally, once people turn their heads or once she disappears from their sight, they forget her. So they wouldn't even know she stole the book. But this guy suddenly runs up to her, like, you stole that book. And she's like, you remember me? And the story basically goes from there, with this guy that suddenly remembers her, like, after 300 years of no one remembering her, this guy remembers her, and the story sets off from there. This book is very slow paced, so do keep that in mind. It might be a little bit hard to get into, but the writing is stunning. The story is so beautiful once you really get into it, and I really love this book. But like I said, I need to reread it to determine if it's a 6-star God tier. But yes, I definitely did want to talk about it because it is one of my favorite books ever. Now for the second book that's an honorable mention, so not an actual 6-star God tier, is because the first time I read this book, I gave it 3.5 stars. I was like, I don't get it. And then I couldn't stop thinking about it for like every day since. So I reread it and I was like, wait, why do I kind of get it now? So I gave it like 4.5 stars. And ever since that day, I have still not been able to stop thinking about it. And since then, this has also become a show, which I think is fucking amazing. Every single day goes by and I just think about this book like almost every single day. It is one of my favorite books in my heart, in my mind. I think honestly when I reread it again, it will become a 6-star God tier. But for now I couldn't yet call it that. But it is Normal People, Sally Rooney. Gosh, my relationship with this book has been so complicated. At first I was like, no, I didn't get it. It wasn't for me, but it wasn't bad. And then I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And then I reread it and I'm like, shit, I really love this book. And I think if I now reread it, it will become a 6-star God tier. But the two times that I did read it, it wasn't. So kind of the same with Addie LaRue. I just need to reread this one to set it in stone that it is one of my 6-star God tier books. But it is still one of my favorite books ever. So in this one, we follow Connell and Marianne. And at first they go to the same high school, right? Yes. And it's set in Ireland. In school, Connell is like very popular, very well liked, and Marianne is kind of like the loner. They kind of think she's weird. They strike up a conversation, and they find that it goes really easy, their conversation, and that they seem to understand each other better than anyone else they know. I can't even explain to you where it goes then, because this book is so not a romance. It is a love story, but it's very complex. Like, these two people are seriously meant for each other, but they try to stay away from each other, but they can't. And one of my favorite things about this book is Connell really struggles with anxiety, and the way it's depicted in this and how it's like talked about is, I can really appreciate it. I think it's very well done, and this is just one of my favorite books ever. But it is a complicated relationship, kind of like the two people in the book. So those were the honorable mentions out of the way. And so now we're going to talk about my actual 6-star God tier books. I do want to say these are not going to be in any particular order. They're not going from low to high, because you cannot ask me to rank my favorite books. Like, come on now. Maybe one day I will do actual like books, like not the series, and tell you my absolute favorite singular books, and then I would rank them. I might do that one day, but that is not this video. So the first two books I want to talk about is The Six of Crows Duology by Leigh Bardugo. So you have Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and this is a duet. I have also read these books twice, I think. It's a YA duet. In this duet, we follow 6 outcasts, kind of form a group, the Crows. They go on this mission to do a heist. I don't want to tell you anything else, pretty much, because I think you should go into these blind. I think they're amazing. Also, you do not need to read Shadow and Bone first. I did, and you would understand the world more, but the characters and everything, it is explained, like what you need to know is explained in these books, so you do not need to read Shadow and Bone. They're both honestly so good, both 6 stars. These are some of my favorite characters ever, and I love them, and I would highly recommend. The next book I'm going to quickly mention because it is quite a heavy book, but it is Alchemized by Sun Lin Yu. This book, y'all, it's genuinely such a well-crafted story, and it's so good, so heavy. Like, if you have any sort of trigger warning in books, please search up this book's trigger warnings, because it probably has it. Basically, we have Helena, and she is now a healer, and you follow, there's 3 parts, and the first part you follow the part after the war, then the second part is during the war, and the third part is after the war again. I can't even explain this book to you because, for one, I don't want to spoil or anything. Second of all, it's so heavy. And third of all, this is not a romance, okay? This is not a romance. This is a fantasy book with a very complex love story next to it. But honestly, I don't know if I could even call it that. Magic system is with alchemy, which is so cool, I think. It's one of my favorite books ever. It genuinely changed me as a person, and that is dramatic, but it is true. It's a story about censorship and war, and what war can do to you as a person, and turns you into something you do not want to be. It is not an easy read, and it's also 1,000 pages long. I will tell you a singular quote. You're like a rose in a graveyard. If that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. Going into something completely different, because it's a memoir, and it is Madison Beer's memoir, the half of it. And you might be wondering, why has she written a memoir? Isn't she like literally in her 20s? Yes, she is. But the things this woman has been through in like literally her teenage years up until now is absolutely insane. Like, she has been in this industry since she was like, I think like 12 years old, which is insane. But the thing she has been through, every time I think of this book, I want to reread it, because I just think she talked about really heavy and complex things in such an accessible and like understanding way, and very in a relatable way. And I just think she did it really beautifully. We should really have more empathy for each other. And I think our society has become so like individual and like you are on your own, you have to survive, like to each their own. But we should really keep in mind to just have empathy for each other. Like this is all our first time on this earth. We're all just doing something. And like we're trying our best, you know, and I think that's one thing to really take away from this book and from her story. It's just please have more empathy for each other and just think about something before you do it or say it, because it really does affect other people. And I just think this is such a beautiful book. I really do want to reread it again. I initially read it because she's my favorite artist, so I saw that she has a book and I wanted to read it. But then this book like blew me away in terms of what it talks about. Now I'll read you a few quotes because I am not going to tell you what this synopsis is because it's literally her life. On the other hand, when we meet face to face, both of us have to acknowledge that we're human beings. And if you were to say those same insults to me in person, you'd have to deal with the consequences. You'd have to see it hurt my feelings, and you'd have to answer for words if I chose to ask you, why do you think it's okay to say something like that? Moral of the story, kindness is cool. You don't need to send someone hate just because you have a social media account. Realizing that your words are powerful and should be used carefully is a beautiful thing. We live in a world that puts a lot of importance on independence and individuality. Both are good quality to have as young adults, but sometimes we skew too far in one direction. We're so busy focusing on ourselves, trying to get by day, that sometimes we tend to neglect the fact that we have a responsibility to uplift and look out for each other. Humans are social creatures. Throughout history, we've always lived in close-knit communities and relied on each other for protection. Whether it's true blood family or chosen family or a mixture of both, we need each other to survive. Sometimes that's difficult to admit. I struggled the most when I thought I was supposed to do everything alone. I love this book. I will cherish this book forever. It just made me think, and I think a good book makes you think, and this one really did that for me. So the next one I have to talk about real quickly is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. For the sake of my arms and my body, I will not be holding this entire series, so I picked what are now my two favorite books in the series. I am currently actually doing my reread of this series. I am almost finished with Airfire, so I will be going to Queen of Shadows, which was my favorite the first time around, and probably is going to be the second time around as well. But I have never read Kingdom of Ash, so I do still need to read that one. But like I said, I'm doing my reads so that I can read Kingdom of Ash. People say that it only gets good from Queen of Shadows, and I highly disagree. I think this book is amazing from start to finish. I think when it gets really good for me is the ending of Crown of Midnight going into Airfire. I do always think with Sarah J. Maas books that the ending of her books is stronger than the beginning of her books, but like the high of the ending of an SDM book, like the last 100 pages, is a high I will forever chase. I love her book so much. I love her so much, and I love the series so very much. But I actually can't say shit about these two books too, because spoilers for the first 3 books in the series. So I always read The Assassin's Blade first. I did that the first time. I did it the second time. It is the way I prefer it. I think you get the most out of the story if you read it that way. The Assassin's Blade is a collection of 5 short stories set in the Throne of Glass world, but it is set before the first book, Throne of Glass. That is why I read it first. I like to read things in chronological order. And so I also did the tandem read the first time around. I don't think I'll be doing that the second time around, but I do recommend a tandem read, especially for your first time around. The first book, let me talk about Throne of Glass. Follows Selena Sarathian, who is an 18-year-old assassin. And she is the best assassin of her age. But she made a fatal mistake. She got caught, and now she is sent to Endovir, which is a slave camp. The captain of the guard shows up and offers her a deal. She can get her freedom if she completes a tournament. Of course, she agrees because Endovir is basically a death sentence. So she agrees to go into this tournament and try to win. And it basically sets off from there. Keep in mind when I say that she's an assassin, she doesn't actually kill anyone in the first book. So there's that. That's so much more complicated, so much more complex. You really go travel the world more who are for now my favorite. I shall keep you updated if that changes after I read Kingdom of Ash. But yes, I think this is truly one of the best fantasy series to ever exist. It is so well crafted, it's so good, you care for the characters so much, and when you get to these two, trust me, there's a lot of characters, a lot more than in the first few, and I care for every single one of them, so that's crazy. I think Sarah J. Maas is just a master at her craft, and this is her first series, and I think it's so good, especially for a first series. But yes, I love Celaena so much. She is, I think, my favorite FMC ever. She's amazing, and I love Dorian, and I love Rowan, and I love them so very much. I love all of them, and I cannot wait to continue my read. This is one of my favorite series ever. I highly, highly recommend. I would, however, if you want to get into fantasy, this is a good dive into my next favorite series, also by Miss Sarah J. Maas, and it is the ACOTAR series by her. So if you want to get into fantasy, I would recommend these ones. Throne of Glass is more fantasy focused, and this one is really a romantasy. So with this one, the romance is like half with the fantasy, whereas in Throne of Glass, the fantasy is really at the forefront. But this is also one of my favorite series ever. I love it so very much. This series holds my favorite set of characters of all time. If I could live in one world with these characters, it would be this one. I love them to death, and we just got news that we are getting ACOTAR 6 and 7 soon. I know it's hyped, I know it's popular, and to me it's worth it. It's so worth it, it's so good. I recommend this to anyone, especially if you want to get into fantasy. I think it's a great one to do that with, because especially the first one, so easy to understand. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and you follow Feyre, who is a huntress and goes into the woods to find food for her family. Because it is winter, so it's pretty hard to get food. And she ends up killing a wolf for its fur. So, as it turns out, that wolf was in fact not just a wolf. And she gets taken in by a high Fey Lord. She lives with him for a while, and they have a curse that they all have masks on in his court, the Spring Court. And she slowly starts getting feelings for her captor. And it goes on from there. So as you can probably tell by the premise, it's kind of Beauty and the Beast like, because it is in fact a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I mean, A Court of Thorns and Roses. Once you have read this one, it's definitely not a Beauty and the Beast retelling anymore. So much changes in these. And the second book is A Court of Mist and Fury. This is my favorite book in the series. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I think this book is so good. If I think about the perfect romantasy, this book. This one. It's so good. I'll have my favorite characters show up in this. I love it so much. I cannot tell you anything about it because it would spoil everything for the first book. But yes. These so much. I love this whole series so much. I again can't tell you anything about it, but I can tell you first. Okay, they're out of order now, but the first 3 books follow Feyre, her story, and I won't tell you anything else. Then this one is a novella and is multi-POV, so you get more characters POV. And then this one we follow Nesta, which is Feyre's sister. And she also has another sister who doesn't have a book yet. We only have 3 more to talk about, which is crazy. So let me first share a standalone. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is one of my favorite books ever. I've read this book I think 4 times now, and it is still one of my favorite books ever. I love this book so much. It is so good. Honestly, Taylor Jenkins Reid, I don't know how she does it, but whenever I read her books, her characters, like this is kind of like a historical women's fiction almost. And in my mind, Evelyn Hugo and the other characters lived back in the day. That is completely untrue. These characters are completely fictional, but somehow she writes it in a way that makes me think they're real. We follow Evelyn Hugo, who is a Hollywood star. She is an actress in Hollywood, so she's like a big star. Basically tells the story of her scandalous and glamorous life. You have a then and now timeline. Back then, you follow her as she, you know, was really famous in her life with 7 husbands, because she had 7 husbands in her lifetime. So you follow how that goes, and it kind of goes like husband by husband, which sounds really scandalous. You follow the then, and then in the now, it is of a reporter who is writing her story, because Evelyn never before let anyone write her story. She never talked to reporters or anything like that, and now she's finally telling her story about her life, the story behind all the 7 husbands. Everyone's also very curious because Evelyn was such a huge like Hollywood star, and she picked this unknown reporter to write her story, so everyone's kind of really confused about that, so you're also finding that out slowly as you go. And I think this is one of the best books I've ever read. So I highly recommend it. Since I got here, oh my gosh, it's so good. Next 2 are the last 2 we're going to talk about in this video. And the first one is a series again, and it is the Magnolia Park series by Jessa Hastings. Books have taken over my life. These books have changed my life, genuinely. And I know I'm being dramatic, but it is true. I only have the first 3 here. There are 5 out right now. I haven't read the last 2 yet because I really want to, but these books, like, they take a toll on me to read because I care so much about them. So I'm like crying every other chapter. So I always need a little break in between. When I first read this book, I was really unsure because this series is not for everyone. It's just not. And I was really scared it was not going to be for me, and I wasn't going to like it as much as everyone else. Boy, oh boy, did I like this book. First one, I was crying like every other chapter, and I thought I didn't cry very easily with books. Well, with this one, I did. How does one even explain Magnolia Parks? You can't really, because it's so much about feeling and chemistry and everything. You follow Magnolia and BJ, who think Gossip Girl, but set in London. So it's like these characters are very high society, rich, people who are always in the media. For BJ and Magnolia, think Chuck and Blair, basically. I can explain it to you because you won't get it unless you read it, and even if you don't get it, then I completely understand this is not for everyone. It's toxic. The second one, we follow Daisy and Christian. Also toxic, but different. Daisy books, you follow the POVs of Daisy, Christian, and Daisy's brother Julian. And Julian is a gang lord, crime lord. You follow that storyline, but also Daisy and Christian together. This is also toxic. It's complex, it's complicated, there's all of these other things going on, and drama and everything. It's basically Gossip Girl but set in London. I can't explain this series well because it's just something I feel, and my love for this series will never die. It's one of my favorite series ever. It is definitely my favorite contemporary series ever. But the series I'm going to talk about now is my favorite fantasy series, together with Thornwick and Akatar. The Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. I can't even hold them. Hold up. So of course, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. My favorite fantasy series. Oh, it's so good. I think if you have been around on the book space, you will know Fourth Wing. In Fourth Wing, we follow Violet Sorrengail, who has trained her entire life to be a scribe. So scribe is like they studied. She's trained her whole life to like read books and everything and have a lot of knowledge. And then all of a sudden her mom says, no, you're going to be in the Riders Quadrant. And so the riders are dragon riders. So now all of a sudden she has to complete all these physical tests, and she has to cross the parapet and everything. And she is not prepared for that, and the other riders have basically prepared for it their entire lives. And Violet's also very tiny, and she also has a chronic illness. It's very difficult for her, that she manages to do it. And once you get into the Riders Quadrant, all of the shit shoots up from there. And we end up with also this set of characters, and the dragons also talk, which is amazing. I mean, like, in their riders' heads, but like you hear their thoughts and everything. and it turns into so much more, which I can't say or I will spoil it. But I love this series so much. The last one, Onyx Storm, is my favorite, even though it was painful. Then Fourth Thing, and then Iron Flame. But it's so good. I highly recommend. This is also a romantic series, so the romance and the fantasy are kind of 50-50. So those were my favorite books. Mostly series, honestly. If you want me to do like singular books, like my actual top 10 favorite books, let's say, I can definitely do that. For now, these were just my favorite books, favorite series in general. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what your favorite books are, and I will see you in the next